Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Merricks Garage. I got a lot to catch you guys up on. I've been building the fuel cell, skid plate, mounting bracket, rear bumper, bumper frame cap, all that stuff over the past few weeks. And if you can see behind me, you see that I've made some progress. In fact, you'll even notice that the truck is facing the other direction, which is a sign as to how much I got done. Anyway, we're going to discuss fuel cell, why I chose it, some of the differences. We're going to talk about fuel pumps today. We're going to talk about welding. We're going to get the bumper in. We're going to start the truck. It's going to be fun. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, give me a comment. You know the drill. Let's go. Merricks Garage. It's time. It's time to upgrade my fueling. I had some major issues with fueling on the Moab trip. Unbeknownst to me, the tank was moving all over the place. The filler line had popped out. It was dripping fuel. It was just a bad situation all the way around. I'm very fortunate that nothing caught fire, to be quite blunt. So, long story short, I could have retrofitted the stock tank and made it work, but I decided it was time to go to a fuel cell. Not for any particular reason, like concerns of fire and things like that, but when I did do the measurements of my new frame, I determined that I could get a fuel cell that would basically just fit between the rails and suck up flat, and Jaz Products had exactly what I needed. So I got a fuel tank from them, a 22-gallon fuel tank, and it comes with a polyurethane fuel cell and then a steel case around it. And I'm building a skid plate and bash guard for it and all that while I'm doing the rear bumper. But I want to talk to you guys about sending units, pumps, things like that. So take a look at what I got here. It's scribbles all on top of the cardboard box, but hopefully it will make a little bit of sense. And we'll talk about the sending unit that I'm putting in versus the sending unit I have right now. Okay, on the right, we have the new GM LS fuel pump. And on the left, we have a hybrid of a stock sending unit with a Walbro high flow 56 PSI fuel pump. So this is what I've used forever. It works well. It integrates into the tank perfectly, but it does have some drawbacks and limitations. Off the bat, you're going to notice that it is a much more sealed and protected unit. I'll have a lot more flexibility when it comes to hooking up sensors and things like that. You've got a pressure sensor here that can work for the evap, so this is going to be a critical if you're trying to pass smog. Built-in sending unit has the fuel gauge level in it, but the coolest thing is this baffled container. It's the reason I didn't need to go do any baffling on the tank, because I have this pump that's all self-enclosed. So I'm ordering the quick connects up here from Russell to connect it to the stock AN or the AN lines that I've got in there. You can see down here there was some hardline adaptations that had to be made. But basically this is the guy that's going in. Another nice feature is it compresses. So it is going to fit a variety of tanks. To make the sending unit fit, I have to come up with some sort of plate that will capture underneath and capture on the top. Actually, Nocturnal Welding is going to make it, but I have come up with the numbers. This is what I'm seeing right here. This is going to be my bottom plate. So it's got a horseshoe because it's got a 4-inch internal diameter. So I'm going to have to sneak it through the hole that I cut. So it has to have a horseshoe in it. Otherwise, we won't be able to get it in. OD, outside diameter, is going to be 5.5 inches. ID is going to be 4 inches, leaving 3/4 inch thickness on either side. This will be my bottom piece that will go in the tank, will come up, and it will provide nuts, bolts to bolt down, much like this guy for the fuel filler. Where it gets a little tricky is I do only have this much to work with. So the top plate is going to be a 5.5 inch top ring, you know, matching up with the top ring on the bottom ring OD on this guy. but only a 3.5-inch ID. Well, it's come together pretty well. I decided to take these bolts out. I basically just buttoned these two pieces together, and I ran 4 of them, one on each corner, through to hold the tank down, along with the straps that are holding the tank down. So this tank is locked to the skid / mounting plate right now, and I have the filler in. I've got the pump in, breather. It's ready to go back in. So yeah, I'm excited how this looks. This is all tapped and ready to go. This is gonna be the underneath. I'm gonna have to cut it a little bit more because it's gotta be able to sneak. It's gotta be able to sneak past that. So it's a little close. Now I am gonna drill. Gonna drill all these out to 1/4 inch. I'm drilling these holes, which are gonna be the top plate. Now the bottom plate right here is gonna come up underneath with these threaded already. But to do the holes, it's easier to do it like this. Here you can see I got the ring mounted in there. I bought the hardware that I need. It's all lining up pretty well. It is in. The challenge I am having, which is what I knew I was going to have, is even though the bottom plate is threaded, there's going to get a point where as I'm tightening these, they're going to start spinning. I'm cutting a slot in them with this guy. I've shown you guys this thing before. It's fantastic. I didn't think I was going to get that much use out of it when Milwaukee sent it to me, but for trimming panels and for this sort of detail work, it's awesome. So the purpose of that slot obviously is so I can put a screwdriver in it and hold it, and it seems to be working. I'm working my way around and everything's getting tight, but you can see there's still a little bit of a gap. I gotta suck it down. This is not gonna get sucked down all the way because I've got that bead in there, but we're getting close. Got the skid plate all buttoned up. It's all welded. All the holes are drilled. I've added some stuff to it that I'll show you here in a second. And it's time to just blast it and then paint it. So I'm really stoked with this new Harbor Freight weld. Well, it's not new, it's a year old now, but a lot of you guys ask how that thing's doing. Let me show you. Now, I am the weak link here, but these welds, I mean, that's probably one of the best welds I've ever done. I'm really happy with how they're coming out. Yeah, so great bite, great penetration, easy to use. Yeah, this welder's delivering for me. So here is what I've done. I've added a piece of angle iron across the back to kind of add some rigidity to the plate. It's decently thick stuff. I mean, this is 12 gauge, so it's 1/8 of an inch thick. And this is 1/8 of an inch thick angle iron. So it's 10 gauge angle iron and 10 gauge sheet. So across the top, we're going about 1/4 inch, which is plenty. And yeah, got the holes drilled. These are for the straps. This is for the plate. Ready to go. It's time to sand this one down. It is starting to warm up again, which means it's obviously time for me to undertake a very strenuous and exhausting project, because I like to make things harder than they need to be. Anyway, today this shouldn't be that difficult. We're gonna notch these so that they slide right up and over this point right here. So all I'm gonna do is drill a hole here, drill a hole underneath, and connect the 2 holes with the angle grinder. And this guy should be sitting quite nicely on here. Okay, got this bar tacked in place. Really stoked on how that looks. So it's gonna get a big bead all the way down here. Now, It's time to try and get this bumper off so I can weld it inside the garage. The plan to get the bumper off is fairly stupid again. If I can pull the frame rails together, even so slightly, that's gonna give me room for this guy to come off because it's really tight. Got the bumper off of the back of the truck today, and this is gonna give me a lot easier of a time when it comes to welding. I can move the bumper around to give me the best position when I am welding it, and yeah, I'm stoked on doing that. I'm also right now gonna be dialing in some settings on the welder and storing them in the memory. I found a bunch of settings that work really well for the 3/8 plate and for the 120 wall and for the 250 wall. So I am going to try and recreate those settings right now and store them in the memory of the welder so I can just go to them when I need to. There's really not going to be that many settings for me. I use basically the same stuff. I use 90 wall, 120 wall, 1/4 inch, and 3/8. That's really about it. So 4 settings, and we should be good. Let's get it dialed in. So I have the bumper out and it's ready to really start burning in. I'm gonna throw some more seams along here, and this is gonna get burned in, as is all underneath. And this is 3/16 plate. And I've already got 3/16 is either 4.5 .1875 or 7 gauge is what it's known as. So let's go over here. I've got it all set already, but we'll reset that. Those are my options here. So I'm always on C25. Yes, confirm. Diameter, no, my wire diameter is 0.03. Let's bump that to 3/16. And we'll see how it does. I'm just gonna clean this off and then we'll run a couple lines. This is getting better. I turned it back up a little bit, dialed it in a little bit more, liked where I ended up, and then ran this entire bottom one. In my experience, which of course is super limited, and I'm just the home hobbyist here, I find it runs a little hot. So that's where I kind of always drop down the settings like 5 to 10% roughly, and then work my way back up. But it's very rarely set up poorly. I mean, most of the settings are within a little bit is what I found. So yeah, let's practice on some 120 wall and see what that lines up at. We'll save that as, so I saved that one as number 1. We'll save that one, next one, as number 120 wall. Let's take a look at that crack in my roll bar. Got a couple of them, which is why. Can you guys see that? Yeah, that's not good. And I have a feeling that's what's causing some of the deviations here. So I'm gonna cut this tube out, which is fine because these 2 tubes are way too low. This is too low, it's gotta go. And that was part of my original plan, I just never got to it. But yeah, hopefully, without the bumper, I mean, without the cage tie-in, maybe this is gonna slide over. Let's see. Man, the right tools really do make the job easy. With my bandsaw, I got that cut down in literally like 3 minutes. This is
what I've removed. Now, I'm pretty sure that tubing was fine. In fact, I know it was. But not up there, it wasn't. That's where it was cracked. Underneath and on top. And it might just be me, but that's looking better in my opinion. Yeah. Something I have learned in the years I've been building this truck is the quickest path is not always the fastest path. I knew it would be best if I pulled the bumper off. By pulling the bumper off, I'm not only going to be able to weld it in the garage where I can control a lot more things and get to the angles I need to get a good weld down, but also by pulling the bumper off and making sure the bumper's square, I can prep the frame to get it as square as I can so that when the two go back together, everything sits nicely. So that's what I've done over the last couple of days. I was able to get the bumper off. I got it in the shop. I burned it in. I even managed to get it back on. By cutting out the top part of the cage up here, it allowed this guy to pivot over again, moving the bottom piece of the roll cage up and over. And what that ultimately means is this bumper is sitting on better than it was before. It's sitting higher and it's sitting flatter. When I had it on in its initial mock-up, it was tilted a little bit. It was a little bit tilted up. I had a feeling it was like that. So before I add on the lower wrap bars, I wanted to get the bumper on in its final place so I could see how off the top wrap bar is. So I can easily cut this guy right here and just rotate to get this flat and level. But once I've got all of these tubes in, I'm not going to be able to do that without some major modification. So long story short, the bumper is in its final position. It's most likely going to be left on there now. All the welding around the cradle and the hitch is all dialed and burned in really deep. And it's time to put the fuel cell back underneath and see how that lines up. I'd love to be able to get this thing back on the road here in the next couple of days. So yeah, let's put that fuel cell in and make sure we got plenty of room. The struggle of being a one-man mechanic fabricator is real, even though I've got some little dudes on skateboards to help every now and then. To get the fuel cell back under, I use an axle cradle and I lift up the truck. As the truck comes up, I can slide the fuel cell back. Now I'm going to lower the truck back down, and with the same jack, lift the fuel cell into place. It's a lot of steps, but it does work. I got the bumper in where I want it. It's not welded, but it's in place. And I have the skid plate and gas tank in place where I want them. Now it's just up to building some brackets, hooking up the electrical, and I can move this guy. I want to swap him around in my driveway, so I'm working out of my garage, not like I am right now, because it's a pain right now. But check it out. The only thing left to figure out is this wrap bar. I may end up cutting it, we're gonna have to see.
With the tank in its temporary home and the bumper on, everything's been wired. Just gotta connect up the wires, throw some gas in it, and we're gonna start this thing and flip it around. Because I wanna be facing the other way. So let's just get those wires connected and we'll start this guy after we put gas in it.
Okay, let's turn it around. When the bumper went back on after I had cut the cage and straightened and tweaked the frame as much as well, not the frame, but the cage as much as I could, the bumper did line up a little bit differently, which was what I was anticipating and was prepared for, and it's a good thing. The bumper actually sucked up higher, it sits flatter, I'm happier with it. What that meant is the wrap tubes that I had already tacked in place sat a little high. I've already fixed that one. Let me show you what the other side looks like. And you'll see what I'm talking about. So that's all it's doing. Super easy fix. The whole slug and sleeve again. Cut right there, rotate it down, and you fill it. You fill it with the slug, just like that again. And so I'll drill a hole here and a hole here and just do a little rosette weld to hold this in. This piece will ultimately get tied in to the wrap bar that comes from there up to here. I've also took the opportunity to narrow this one down. I chopped about an inch out of here to bring it over. Yeah. It's looking the way I kind of envisioned it. And what I'm even more stoked on is I've now got like a bunch of complex bends going on in there, and it looks good. Really stoked. There is a lot more where that came from. Make sure to hit that subscribe button up there to stay connected with my account and my channel, and also take a look at some of the other videos over here that I've got. You guys will dig them. See you next week. Peace.